Now, it's almost a week since toddler Mikhail Kuler was reported missing from his Edinburgh home. As if the subsequent discovery of his body wasn't dreadful enough, police are now investigating offensive comments posted on Twitter about the case. Vicious insults and threats sent online, known as trolling, is, I'm afraid, a growing problem. Just today, in fact, the former footballer Stan Collymore has spoken out about the abusive messages that he's received online. We'll hear from him in just a moment. Well, Matthew has been to see how specialist police units are cracking down on the online hate mongers.
Three-year-old Mikhail Kular's body was discovered in Woodland on Friday. It was the news the search parties had been dreading.
I can confirm that we've recovered the body of a young boy in Fife shortly before midnight.
But whilst hundreds attended a memorial service to pay their respects, police found others had gone online to post vile messages about his death.
Online trolling is a growing problem. The latest figures show that around 2,000 crimes relating to online abuse are reported to police each year in London alone. Nationally, the scale of internet bullying is enormous.
There have been several high-profile cases recently. Journalist Caroline Criado Perez suffered a torrent of online abuse after campaigning for Jane Austen to appear on the new £10 note. This month, a man and a woman from the northeast both admitted sending some of the malicious messages. They're due to be sentenced on Friday. And it's not just those in the public eye who are targeted.
Lauren was very confident then, really loving girl. She would do anything for anyone. I was willing to help anyone out. Just a really lovely daughter.
In 2011, 14-year-old Lauren passed away in her sleep. Soon after, her mother Carol found out just how vicious the trolls could be.
A friend of hers set up a rest in peace site so that all her friends can leave messages for her. And this is where this guy had started leaving messages and things. He would put, help me mummy, it's hot in hell. A video came up which was quite nasty, and it had an open grave and headstones and just say coming soon, and there was a body with maggots on saying, mummy, this is what I look like now. Just lots of nasty things really. And he would set up a picture of me and Lauren. He would deface her and put kiss mummy goodbye one last time. It was just awful, and we were going through hell.
But how do you find these anonymous abusers?
Here in Manchester, the police have a dedicated team using the latest technology to help track down the trolls.
The worst of it, it's just beyond belief. It's sick, it's vile. It's comments that people make, you know, about raping somebody, decapitating them, stabbing them, murdering them. Stuff that we'd find absolutely unimaginable.
Take me through how quickly you can identify them, close them down.
We can literally, and we have been talking about 2 to 3 hours of seeing something that's posted there, identifying the individual and knocking on their door, execute a warrant at their address, seize the equipment, and we'll prosecute them for the offence.
And you'll have heard what trolls say. They talk about freedom of speech. They talk about people, if they don't like it, don't look. What do you say to that?
There's quite clearly a threshold with what is freedom of speech, comments that people should be at liberty to make, and then what is, you know, clearly abusive and people would find alarming and distressing. And, you know, the average person in the street would know where that threshold is.
So what sort of people troll, and why do they do it?
Things that do emerge again and again are loneliness, some aspects of depression, people who perhaps have large amounts of time on their hands. Things like tribute sites are often seen as a good place to go. And trolls will look for sites like that because you will quickly cause enormous distress, enormous outrage. And there is an enormous feeling of victory for a lot of people who engage in that activity when that happens. Online, people are not conscious. They don't feel they're hitting a wall, at which point they are going to have to face negative consequences.
They say the pain get easier. It doesn't. You learn to not have them around, I suppose, because there's nothing you can do. But the pain is still as bad as when we lost Lauren, definitely.
Carol reported the abuse to police and found the man responsible had already been arrested for similar offences. He was sentenced to 18 weeks in jail.
They may think to themselves, are you sure? Is it really that easy to actually track them down? What would you say?
I say it can be complicated, it can be painstaking, it can take time, but we are willing to invest that time and effort to do that. They think that they're anonymous and that there's some kind of protection there. My message is that they're not. We can trace them, we will trace them, and we'll prosecute them.
Pretty unbelievable stuff, isn't it? So what can we do about it? Well, with me here is Laura Higgins from the UK Safer Internet Centre. You have helped lots of people who've had to deal with these sort of horrible problems. What kind of things have you seen?
Yes, we've seen some really sad cases. So things like teenagers being told everyone hates you, drink bleach. We've dealt with adults where they've had rape threats, death threats, and threats to harm people's children. Really awful things.
Yeah, really serious things. As we heard there from the officer in the film, there's a difference between strong banter and outright abuse. We've spoken to the historian and TV presenter Mary Beard. She has faced some very serious threats.
It's not nice getting that kind of stuff. But when that turned to be real threats of rape, decapitation and violence, a bomb's going to go, your house is going to be bombed and it's going to be at 11:29 tonight and we're watching you. Now, at that point, that isn't the kind of thing that you deal with by retweeting it with an exclamation mark to your followers. I mean, that's a threat of violence, that's a crime. And as soon as people have crossed that line from laddish, nasty but laddish abuse to threats of death, you have no option but to go to the police.
Mary Beard there, yeah. So serious threats clearly do need to be taken to the police. Facebook and Twitter say that they have made it easier to report abuse, and Twitter say they're going to have more staff to investigate. Well, earlier today, we spoke to Stan Collymore, who says that he has faced horrendous threats and racist abuse, and he thinks that Twitter should be doing more to protect its users.
The amount of racist abuse just seems to be getting worse. And on top of that, threats to kill, threats to turn up to a home and murder. And this is almost now Twitter living in its own bubble with the tagline on the top, freedom of speech, which particularly an ever younger demographic are taking literally, that there is no recourse, that they don't live in the United Kingdom, they live in Twitter world, and in Twitter world you can say anything. And that is a very, very dangerous precedent to set.
Laura, there's a big debate about the responsibility that lies with the social media companies. Let's leave that to one side for now and give people practical things that they themselves can do. What advice would you give, given your experience?
Okay, I mean, the first thing is, if you're experiencing these issues, you need to do something about it. Now, the sorts of things we're talking about are very serious. They are illegal. These are hate crimes. They're threats to harm people. So we need evidence. So the first thing you need to do, really, don't retaliate, don't retweet, but get screenshots, because that will help any investigation. Twitter and people will work with law enforcement, but it is a process we need to go through involving court as well.
OK, run out of time. That's a really good piece of advice. Thank you very much indeed. OK, still to come tonight, the hunt for an